Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Chai Tea with Nina D. It's a solo today. We're going to talk about anger, emotional regulation. I feel like a lot of us are just walking around triggered all the time and therefore suffering deeply. What I mean by this is like getting angry at everything, letting everything trigger you, right? Someone says something, you got angry. Someone does something or didn't do something, you're getting angry. You're lashing out, you're projecting onto people. Basically, you are always rattled by someone or something. What that is a lack of ownership over yourself or a lack of responsibility over your own reactions or responses. You've given your power away. How do we even get to this point? I did not always have a hold on my anger, that is for sure. Even as a little child, I was very vocal. Like, you knew if I wasn't okay with something. Like, I would tell my parents when I was angry. Like, it wasn't like physical or anything. I was just very loud when I would get mad. But a specific example that I can think of is, I would say like 2019, like towards the end of 2019, I would say, I was having a discussion with my husband. We were living in St. Louis at the time. And I even forget what the situation was, but we were discussing something and we're trying to work something out. It wasn't about us, it was about something external. And I was screaming at the top of my lungs, like I mean screaming. Here's the thing, that was not uncommon for me to be screaming, but I am screaming at him and he's sitting down and I can see the look in his eyes of like, she's like really like losing it right now. Like you could see like the veins popping in my head and stuff. And shortly thereafter, within a couple weeks, I had gotten very, very sick. And I remember the doctor saying to me, have you recently gotten very angry or very stressed, like physically worked yourself up? And I remember thinking about this moment where I was screaming and yelling at Brian because it stuck out in my head, right? So for me, that was a very eye-opening, eye-awakening moment that how could I let something, it wasn't even about Brian and I, it was something external. How could I let something get me so angry that I physically lose control over myself, that I physically lose control over the volume of my voice, that I feel the need to project and yell so loud that it happens to the detriment of my body and my health? Because if I do get very mad or angry from when I had gotten sick, I will get like shooting nerve pain down the right side of my face, down here, down to my neck and shoulder, if I go over a certain octave in my voice. Even if I stress too much, it happens. So for me, I feel like I have a built-in system for the rest of my life to prevent me from like getting very angry about anything. But it shouldn't have gone to that point, right? It shouldn't have taken something so serious and severe for me to learn my lesson on being able to respond or pause instead of reacting with such extreme anger in moments. Like this was a very expensive lesson. When I say expensive, I mean emotionally expensive lesson for me to learn. Whereas I could have just learned to regulate my anger and emotions and not give my power away every 2 minutes when something triggered me or didn't go my way. Professionally, I have an example as well. Early on in my career, I was managing a team of like, I would say 20 to 25 people. I had an issue, an instance where somebody was not doing their job. And I was trying to avoid it. I was trying to avoid having the conversation because I was kind of giving a little bit of room to this person. This person was very young, by the way. It was their intro job, so to speak. But the mistake that this person ended up making was so large that it affected my performance and it affected what I was in charge of. And so I remember politely asking this person to come into my office and having a discussion with this guy. It was a guy. And we start going back and forth. I'm explaining to him calmly like what the situation is and how many chances he's been given and what we would like to see change and why, all these things, right? His body language is what threw me off. His body language is what made me angry. He's just looking at me, mouth open and just like dead on staring like he wants to like kill me. Like literally he's just like, what is she gonna say, right? I'm not yelling at this point, but I could tell what I'm saying is going in one ear, out the other, because I'm feeling like he's like, she doesn't tell me what to do, whatever, but really I was in charge, like I was his superior. And he looks at me and he goes, is that it? And I hadn't learned my lesson yet, by the way. I was in my 20s at this time. And I got up, closed the office door, sat back down, and just yelled at him. And I was like, how dare you speak to me that way? I have been nothing but on your side. And I mean, I went in. I was screaming to a point where the receptionist could hear me, and it was pretty far down on the floor. I'm not proud of that moment. I didn't have to, again, lose myself, if that makes sense, right? Like I could have said it, I could have been angry, but I didn't have to be screaming. I could have been angry or frustrated, but I could have responded to when he said, is that it, right? Like there could have been a response, not a reaction. I reacted out of ego, by the way, that how dare he speak to me? Like I'm his superior, he's supposed to take orders from me, he's supposed to listen to me. This all falls on me. Like that's where all that was coming from, right? And that he still can't understand it, and can he give me enough respect? Like I've given him so many chances, the least he could do is give me respect. I'm sharing all these little details because my reaction was coming from a personal place. And if we could take that personal component out of things and learn to maybe step outside, then we won't feel the need to react so harshly, we can respond. I think first and foremost, it's very important to understand why we want to make the switch. We want to make the switch because you don't want to live a life triggered at all times. When you're triggered, walking around angry or frustrated or yelling at people, you're suffering. You're literally physically suffering. We all know that physical symptoms that we get when we're angry or stressed out cause illnesses. And this happens multiple times over your life, again and again and again. That's how you get heart attacks. That's how you have diabetes. Like that's what triggers all these chemical reactions in our bodies that now end up into like, diagnosis or chronic illnesses. That's what we want to prevent, okay? That's the first thing. Second thing, you should care because if you're not going to take care of yourself, you're not going to love yourself enough to emotionally regulate yourself, then who will? I'm telling you, this world's a beautiful place, but you have to learn how to move and navigate through society, your personal life, your professional life, your social life, in a manner where the power is within you. No matter what anybody says, no matter what anyone does or doesn't do for you, or how they show up for you or don't show up for you, we shouldn't have to rely on other people to give us what we want, right? Like, why do we put our happiness or our wants and desires and need and think that someone else is gonna fill those for us? Why don't we show up full ourselves? Like, I'll give you an example. Like, if you're with your partner and they're just not hearing you, they're just not listening to you, and you keep getting mad over the same thing over and over again, you keep having the same conversations. How many times does this have to happen again and again and again for you to just stop reacting? Do you not recognize a pattern here? Is that how you want to live? You want to live triggered and bothered and stressed out? You really put your happiness in that person's hand for the rest of your life? I think that we need to take more accountability for ourselves and for our happiness. This is not to be confused with emotional validation. No, our emotions are valid. Emotions are a very normal process of the human mind and body. I'm not saying don't feel anger. I'm not saying don't feel frustrated. I'm saying do not react to it. Do not project with it. Don't be shaken up every time. Learn how to acknowledge that I'm feeling frustrated and angry, but then learn how to control what's happening within you and how it chooses to manifest outward. That is what we're trying to get a handle on. I like look at it as even if Brian does something very minuscule, say like walking heavy-footed across our floor, right, which he still does. Up until last year, it bothered me and triggered me. This year it doesn't, because it's happened so many times that eventually I like started laughing about it, and I'm like, what, am I gonna be like mad every day? Am I really gonna sit here and be annoyed every single time this guy gets up and walks? No, I'm not. Like, I have to move on and live my life. Like, I'm in a great mood. Why am I gonna let that mess up my day? Anxiety is very similar. Both, I believe, can be handled in a very similar manner. And in a previous episode, I actually share 4 ways to silence your anxiety, which I highly recommend to do so, which can help you regulate very harsh emotions such as anger. So If there's one thing I could say that's helped me is that like I love and honor and respect myself enough to not let these minuscule things rattle me and get me all hell bent. And I don't take it personally that he still doesn't understand that Nina doesn't like when I walk heavy footed. Like, it's silly, you know? And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that if we could actually objectify that thing and not attach it to a person every time, it's very easy to not have an emotional reaction. I'm going to give you guys an example that could put this whole thing of like how I'm able to objectify the thing and not attach it to a person, which then helps me not have such a strong emotional reaction when it comes to anger. It's the empty boat story, where this guy, he's super triggered and annoyed with everybody around him, and he wants to, I don't know, he wants to do something or read a book, we'll say. He gets in a boat, rows to the middle of the lake, far, far away from people, finally finds a place like, okay, I'm not gonna be bothered, it's quiet here, I can hang out, I can read, okay? He starts doing so, and when all of a sudden he hears like a big thud and a clanking, and he sees that another boat has rammed into his boat. He looks in it, obviously he's immediately like, what? He looks in it, there's no body in it, there's nobody in it, it's an empty boat. What is he gonna say? Is he gonna yell at the boat? Is he going to yell at the situation? Like, we don't fight at situations, we don't yell at situations, we yell and scream and project onto people. So if you can always learn to look at everything as that empty boat, then you're not gonna have such a strong emotional reaction. So it's not that we don't get angry, right? It's not that we don't feel frustration. It's not that we don't feel these strong emotions. It's just that we don't let them rattle us all the time. We don't let ourselves get to the point where we're reacting all the time. And we learn to just, you know, another metaphor that helps me is like letting the water just like slide off, you know, just like letting it go. Be like that, where things can just happen and just like slide off of you. Not everything requires you to like do something about it or say something about it or feel something about it. We need to learn how to like flow through life a little bit better.